What is going on, everybody? My name is Dion, but you already know that because you clicked this link in the description, which means you want to know how I rate movies. Obviously, everybody's going to have their own system on how to rate things or whether or not a movie is good based on certain criteria. Everyone's different. It's an art form. It's supposed to be different. But I also try to remain as unbiased as possible for every review. And that is why I always have an official score and an IsBe score. Because my IsBe score is how I felt about the movie. It doesn't matter what the numbers say. It matters if I actually enjoyed the movie and whether or not I would recommend it. But just because I like something doesn't exactly mean that it's a good movie or falls under a, proper movie criteria or whatever. Because there are a lot of guilty pleasures that people have. Some people like watching bad movies for fun. That's why we have cult classics like The Candyman or Shark Boy and Lava Girl. And so the original score is there to be the unbiased review. To be the review that is basically like, look, these are the facts of the movie. This is how it comes out. But how do you rate an art form? How do you make it unbiased as possible? Well, luckily, I've created a scale how to do just that. I have a scale with 4 categories. Each of those 4 categories having 5 points, making it a total of 20 possible points for you to get. Did that because I'm bad at math and it's easier to convert 20 to 100 rather than any other number. And in terms of letter grading, if you can't tell by my accent, I am an American, so the letter grading is based on American criteria. So the first category is plot, obviously the story. What is this piece of media about? What is occurring? The first point for plot is for originality. Is it new? Is it something we've seen before? And if it is something that we've seen before, is it taking that thing that we've seen and changing it into a new light? Or is it just a copy and paste? And just because it's a remake doesn't necessarily mean it can't get points for originality. Is it something that needed to be remade? Is it remade with the heart and passion of the original? Or is it just a selfish cash grab? Point number 2 is for cohesiveness. How well the story unfolds, how well it changes. How easy is the audience able to follow the movie, and are they able to walk away knowing how we got from point A to point B? Something like pacing can break a story, so if the pacing is off, or the audience is jumbled like, huh? Then obviously you didn't get the cohesiveness point. Point number 2 is importance. Now, for movies, importance is whether or not I wasted 2 hours of my life. If I watched the movie and was like, wow, that was a good movie, I'm glad that I took the time or money to watch that. And this point, admittedly, is a little catered towards the television side of things, of whether or not this was a filler episode, whether or not I got any information out of it, whether or not it was actually important for me to watch this, or if I could have just skipped it. Point number 4 is plot holes and coinkydinks. Whether or not a character has plot armor, whether or not the characters know things that they just know randomly, or if it was actually shown or explained in the period of us watching. Things can't happen just because. There has to be a reason. And you can get this point if you have 1 or 2, but if your art form is filled with a bunch of just happenings, then yeah, you're gonna lose this point. And the 5th point for plot is the ending. Whether or not the ending is good, whether or not it's dramatic, shocking, plot twist, anything like that. The ending is one of the most important parts of a movie. That is the part that your audience is going to walk out of the theater with or turn off their television and think about. A bad ending can completely break a movie. The second category is character. Now, obviously, characters are arguably the most important part of the movie. That is who your audience is going to be watching throughout the story that you are presenting us. Now, the first point is characterization. Now, admittedly, this one is a little bit heavy towards remakes and adaptations, but that doesn't mean it can't apply to original stories. If you establish a character as one way and then they don't act that way throughout the film, then your character's characterization doesn't make any sense. Also, is your character fresh or new, or are they a basic cliche? Point number 2 is for the role of the character. Was the character useful? Did they actually serve a purpose in the thing we were watching, or are they just kind of there because you needed to hire more actors? Point number 3 is acting. This is where the acting comes in, because acting can absolutely make or break your movie. You can have a solid star-studded cast, but if your main character or any of the characters that are supposed to be important and have a lot of screen time tend to be wooden or boring or just seem uninterested, that's going to destroy everything and bring your audience out of the world that you put them into. Point number 4 is chemistry, because yes, your characters need chemistry. Now, while this technically could be shoved into the acting category, it's not exactly the same thing, because you can be a fantastic actor, but if you don't have chemistry with your other coworkers, then... And the final character point is writing and dialogue. Now, obviously, writing is a big part of it, and I put it under the character category because your character is the one that the writing is focusing on, whether it be dialogue or just in their actions. If you write a character to do stupid decisions, that's on the writing. And of course, obviously, line delivery, dialogue, and all of that technically go with the actors, but it is also important to make sure that you're giving your actors good dialogue to say. The third category we have is themes. Now, the theme is important because every single anything you watch, read, listen to, they all have themes. They all have messages that they're trying to get across to you. Now, whether or not that message is actually good, or whether or not there's a true message there, or if they just have big monkey fights giant lizard, most of the time when watching a movie, there is an actual reason behind it. Same with any television show or book or anything. And so the first theme point is, who is it for? Is there a clear target demographic, or is it just generic for everyone? And is this demographic that you're trying to communicate to represented properly within your entertainment? Are you treating your audience with respect, or do you have to shove it in their face because you think that they're stupid? Number 2 is, of course, what are they saying? Are they saying things that need to be said? What is the message? And if the message isn't worth saying, why are you saying it? The third category is it preachy? Are they giving us a monologue about how everyone needs equal rights, or are they showing us how everyone needs equal rights? Or are they telling us throughout the story about how, black people and white people are equal and that women are just as strong as men? Or are they showing us throughout the process of the film? Category number 4, admittedly, I just needed a 4th category for this one, but is it a good message? Technically, this is a different category than what is it saying, because you can say something and it not be good. And so is it a message that the people need to hear, or is it something that we've heard a million times before? Are you actually giving us good information to leave the theater with, or are you just telling us something that we already knew going into it? Will the audience leave your piece with thoughts in their mind about what they just watched, or are they going to toss it aside and maybe watch it again if it comes on the cable? Now, the final category is setting. Now, setting has 2 different branches. One for live action medium, and the second is for animated medium. Now, for live action, the first setting point is VFX or CGI or any sort of generated imagery that the actors weren't actually there to view. This goes from everything to green screen to the volume, which is just kind of like a giant green screen, but whatever. Now, in a live action medium, you will get an automatic point for using no CGI whatsoever, because that's very hard to come by these days. But if there are computer generated imagery or any sort of visual effects, is there a purpose for them being there, or did you just add them because you had extra money in the budget? And if so, does it even look good? Does it look like a $200 million movie, or does it look like a YouTuber made it in their basement? Point number 2 is for the props and background. The actors need to be able to physically interact with their surroundings. This includes props, and of course this includes background sets. Did you use the volume? Stop that. Are the items the actors are holding, their swords, their pens, their whatever, are they actually interacting with these things, or are they just surrounded by green boxes? And when they are real, do they actually look good, or does it look like you went down to the Dollar General? Point number 3 is for costume, makeup, and hair. All of these kind of get lumped in together because they are very, very similar. Do your actors look good? Do they look comfortable? Does, again, it look like you went and bought tiaras from the Dollar General? Point number 3 is for lighting and sound. Please Stop making your movies so dark. I want to be able to see what is happening. And why do I have to keep adjusting the volume when I'm watching it? Because your action scenes are too loud and your speaking scenes are too quiet. These are things that I don't want to have to say when I'm watching your piece. And the final point is cinematography and choreography. Does your movie look good? Or does it look like you're just panning the camera around? If there are fight scenes or dance scenes, does it look like your actors know how to fight and dance? This is a visual medium after all. I want to be able to go, ooh, ah, not. Now for animation, it is slightly different. It does have two of the same categories. It has lighting and sound, and it does have cinematography and choreography. Those things are still important even in an animated feature. The three that are different are animation. Does it look like this was animated properly, or does it look like I made it? Is the animation smooth? Are the characters constantly on model? Things of that nature. Number two are the backgrounds, because the backgrounds are different. So does your film have good backgrounds? Does it look beautiful? Does it look nice? Does it look like something I'd want to have as my wallpaper on my computer? Or does it look like you just slop them together in a few seconds? And the final category is stylization. Does your movie look like every other movie, or is it a Spider-Verse? Is it Boy and the Heron? Is it Pneumonia? Is it anything special? And yes, so those are the categories. Obviously, if you add all of those up, there are 20 optional points that you can get. And if you get all 20 out of 20, times that by 5, that's 100. And I'm glad that you clicked on this. Make sure you guys share this video because that's the only way people can see it. It's obviously unlisted. Super secret. Don't tell anybody, actually. Super secret. Don't tell anybody. Definitely don't like this video. And probably shouldn't subscribe based off of this video. You should subscribe based on the last video because you were only able to see it if you got a link. Anyways, with all of that being said, I hope that these categories make sense to you. And as always, my name is Dion, but you can call me IsBe, and I'm out.